We just simply use a calendar, and we have a copywriter that actually does the writing for us. Because so this is for Alberta Carriage Supply, which is two old white guys like me, and we talk in a different language apparently, and don't really. So we have a copywriter who actually puts it into proper English and that people can understand, and then we have the guy who makes sure that the posts and that get up there, and we
Cool.
just we've been around 20 years, so we just kind of go through the whole year and put down the stuff we know is going to happen,
Yeah.
because there's stuff that obviously Christmas and Easter and
Awesome.
harvest and that kind of stuff, and then we just do 3-month blocks, if you will, and okay, it's springtime and at this
Awesome.
time, and just work it out that way so that we go away and that 3-month piece, we pretty much know what's going to go in there.
Awesome. So some kind of spreadsheet then, Dale, or what is it? What is it? What are you physically using as well?
Literally
Scrap paper?
yes, literally a calendar. So it
Okay, great.
just has it on there, and
Awesome.
it fits, and then we can kind of see what those posts are going to be. So if they're too close together, and to keep it so it's so you're not talking about the same thing over and over and over
Yeah.
again.
Awesome. Yeah.
That's,
Okay, cool.
that's yeah.
That's great. And we could look at software, which of course we often do we have a tools and technology lab that looks at different scheduling tools and automation tools, but we got to back it up one step here. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Just the mapping, the strategy, like Dale said, how do you not have your content overlap? And how does it not just constantly sound promotional? So we're going to look at content pillars, content categories, and then content types that make it all this kind of really nice little soupy variety of interesting stuff that people actually want to open, click through, stop scrolling right past. Shannon is saying she does framework-based content creation, and also she doesn't post. Haha. Yes, you do. I love your posts. So I'm gonna assume that framework-based is kind of based on the framework of her company, sort of overarching pillars or beliefs and values. But maybe she can weigh in on what framework-based means. And no, you don't get a copy of these slides, but you get the video replay. I can't also send out the PDF. I'm at my breaking point. But also some of these decks are like 100 pages long, so it just doesn't really work for people to download that. And then Vandy is saying, I have an employee who posts once a week on social media and Hootsuite. Okay, great. So like I said, we're not going to go deep into tools. Let's talk more about the brainstorming that comes before that. But if you want to weigh in with some of those, by all means, please do. So what we're looking for, and this actually kicks off the next 3 weeks, which I'm really excited about. Today, we're talking about the content formula, and we're going to keep it tight. We're looking at those pillars that I mentioned, content categories, and then how you create 52 topics that carry you through the year, and how they just break into those 3 or 4 buckets or content pillars really nicely. And no longer are you waking up every day or every week and saying, what the heck am I going to post about this week? So next week builds on this concept with what we call keystone content. So this week we're going to talk about the overarching topics that you could speak to in your business and create content from seamlessly that support your sales goals that week or that month or that quarter. So it's this beautiful blend of sales and marketing together finally. Instead of knee-jerk promotional all the time, you've got this rich organic content based in your framework, maybe Shannon will call it, but we call it your content pillars. So what you stand for. Then next week, we're going to look at the anchor content each week that you can create once based on that topic, and then have it basically repurpose itself into the smaller sound bites for social media or for your e-newsletter. And really that's one blog or one video that is the keystone linchpin, top of the pyramid content that can then serve all sorts of other places. And you can do that in a batch format once a month, which brings us to week 3 in this little 3-week block of content-based workshops. And that we call the nicer method. And that's where Social School has what I like to think is this really smart, tried and true system where quarterly we name our plans, just like we're doing today. 13 topics to get us through 13 weeks of a quarter. Then in week 1, this is where the ICER comes in, of the nicer method. We ideate, so you're planning out what those specific topics are going to be each week, or a little bit more detail based on your 52-week topics. And then the C, you create in week 2. In week 3, you edit and automate. And in week 4, R, we work on the reach and the return, sort of the analytics of it. So week 3, we'll look at the nicer method. Week 2, next week, we'll look more closely at that keystone content. And today, let's talk about our 52 topics, which are, you guys, honestly, this system for me has been a godsend. It is like this light bulb that went off, and I was like, holy smokes, it's all finally kind of coming together. So I'm excited to take you through it. Most of you have been on our weekly workshops before. We're so thrilled to continue helping you tell your online story, and to see you over in our academy, which is where our recorded courses and tools live. Some of our downloadable toolkits, like I'm going to show you today, one of them. And then, of course, you're part of Social Club because you're here, and that's where we're coming together for additional kind of conversation and collaboration, which has really been fun. Social Market went live last week with our first listings from our freelancers and our talented digital practitioners in our fold that are able to now service the many small businesses and solopreneurs that need them. So I encourage you to check that out, and then grow with us from here. So let's talk about pillars and posts, and what really are those? Well, as we all know, content marketing is basically online storytelling across whichever platforms you choose to invest in. You don't have to be everywhere, but you've got to pick a few horses and really get behind them. And that could literally just be a blog and LinkedIn, or Instagram stories, Instagram reels and posts, and the odd e-newsletter. But some of us want to have everything: a podcast, a YouTube channel, a blog, a really robust suite of social media platforms. Great. But how do we feed that beast? Well, it becomes really challenging if we're doing it knee-jerk on the fly every week. And more than that, it becomes the thorn in our side that we can very easily brush off, and those posts never get published. And I would love to know if you guys have the same types of success, or conversions and revenue, and in appointments booked, in phone calls made to your place of work when you're actively posting online. It's no secret that businesses will say, yeah, when I'm actively sending out my e-newsletter or actively growing my mailing list, even if it starts with 100 people or 20 people, this is when I convert. And this is when things actually start to happen. And I'm the same. I notice those same correlations. So it's crazy that I push this to the back burner and I don't see it as a priority. And I get so mired in operations and other things, building the perfect website, as opposed to getting out there and talking about it in a way that's not pushy, not overly promotional or last minute. It's rich. It's full of, resourceful, helpful tools or insights and information. And your people want it, and they love it, and they begin to start to know you, like you, trust you, and buy from you. So we've had for a long time a system of what we call content pillars at Social School, and that is how we divide our stories up, basically. And then the categories are universal. So my content pillars are unique to me and my company, and my content categories are much more easily applied, and they just keep it a little bit more interesting. They add variety to our content pillars. So let's look at what those are. Our content pillars are the distinct themes of our storytelling in our company. And remember, not of our advertising, but of our storytelling. And this is where I'm going to remind you that our organic content, the stuff that we post for free for all of our people and our fans and followers to, engage with and ingest, is as kind of, it should stand alone in the same way that a beautiful post in a gallery could be published or printed. That post on social media doesn't feel like an ad. It doesn't feel like, I'm being sold or tricked or spun. It feels like this really beautiful or interesting educational kind of thing that this company is sending me that I want more of. I don't want to unsubscribe, block, unfollow. I can't wait to see what they do next. And then an ad or a boosted post, a paid campaign should be the very same. There is no reason that your paid campaigns shouldn't look exactly like as rich and interesting as your organic content. This was summed up for me in one of our retreats by a gal named Camilla, who now works in Calgary, but she had just arrived from London, UK, and she had been working on some gigantic accounts at an agency there. And it was really cool. She said, when we worked on Procter and Gamble's campaigns, in particular, the Dove campaigns, which we're all familiar with, the body kind of issues campaign, she said, we never had a piece of unboosted or unpaid content. So our organic content was our paid content, because otherwise no one would see it, because their organic reach was so low. So she said, for us, we had to make that the same. It wasn't like we'd create organic content that felt really fun and familiar, and then a paid piece of content that felt like an ad or read like an ad. They were the same. So we have to kind of think that way too. What could stand alone as a paid ad that could also be a really great piece of free content, and just make them both better. So our goal here is to determine our content pillars, determine the content categories that kind of live underneath those pillars, and then brainstorm some topics. The most common generic pillars, if you need some, are educate, inspire, and entertain. And you can have a spin-off of this that maybe makes sense for you. But I like these because they are rooted in emotional connection. They're not product forward. If you're not quite there with emotional connection, I often use the example of a flooring company we worked with who was like, we're not down with the inspire and entertain, but we can really wrap our heads around product-based content pillars like commercial, residential, and renovation. Those are our pillars. Okay, no problem. We'll get rich and deep once we get into those pillars, but those are basically the entry points for people on your website, or to engage with you, or for you to simply divide up your content to keep it interesting. A couple more examples here. A nonprofit, those four at the top: advocate, support, connect, community. Or maybe again, product category, something more traditional or historical, and then a piece of promotional content that this company feels like needs to fill 25% of their bucket. But for most of us, that can be worked into any of our content pillars. We don't have to reserve promotional content as something. We're just going to use, for example, an educational piece of content that's also promoting our upcoming program or promoting our flooring product, because we're educating someone as to how quality it is or whatever. So this starts to make more sense when we add in the content categories. So if I think about how I'm going to keep my content pillars really interesting, I'm going to divide them up into things like tips and trends, a top 10, a how-to, did you know, behind the scenes. So I've got an interview perhaps on inspiring piece of, so in my inspirational bucket, I've got an interview with a past client, great. Or I've got an educational piece of content that's fact-based, 10 things you didn't know about tuning your guitar. So really kind of, again, creating variety. If you need to think about this in terms of real life, think of a magazine. If you opened your favorite glossy magazine and every single page was like a top 10 list, you'd be like, what is this? Or if every single thing was an ad because it was like promoting the upcoming whatever sale, event, staff member, you'd be so bored. So what I love about glossy magazines and publishing companies is that they've learned a long time ago the art of variety and layout and kind of that entertaining sort of aspect of our content ingestion. So if we were to look at this here, how are they overlapping? How are they kind of unique? They don't have to be perfect. You can just sort of start to put some thought to what it is that you would use as your content pillars if given the chance. So what I said about educate is that you can build awareness and trust, particularly or with your newer prospects. Makes sense. Well, now we're starting to layer in the audience that also might be good candidates to take in my educational content. So I might want to boost that kind of content to my cold leads in Fort McMurray, a new market. Inspire, great for, I used the wrong font here. Holy, I'm old. Great for warm audiences and ideal for generating engagement. So something inspirational, of course, that you've seen or done. What we like to do in our inspire category, or sorry, pillar, is showcase really unique campaigns, awesome case studies, talk about past students, or just really cool marketing and digital technology out in the world. And then entertain. Well, this is a fun way. It can take many forms, remember. Entertain can be both a documentary and a rom-com. But this is where we can really kind of incite action, particularly among our hot leads, those who know us. Easy to be a little bit more light, aspirational, entertaining, personable when we already have them in our fold. They're on our newsletter list. They are past customers, or they've been on our website, and we're able to, probably convert them into buyers a little bit more easily. So from here, I said 6 content categories. This is 9, but we can have any range of them. Pick 3. And the idea here is that we are going to try and develop 3 to 4 pillars, but 4 pillars is really great for math, if you can, for what I'm about to show you. And then can we come up with 13 topics that would fall under each of those pillars? And, using these categories as further inspiration, the demo, tutorial, the top 5, and ask me anything. Well, now it starts to become a lot easier to generate those topic ideas. What am I talking about with topics? I'm talking about within each topic or in each pillar, what are some things that you could write about? If it was a blog title, for example, what would that look like? And don't worry, we'll get deeper into that next week when we talk about the keystone content and what it actually looks like. For now, we're just trying to come up with 52 topics for the year and how those are going to be jump off points for your entire week's worth of content. That doesn't mean every single thing you say that week is to do with that topic, because you have some other kind of like ongoing evergreen posts or quotes or whatever. But your keystone content, your main stuff, is housed in this springboard topic. And that week flies by too, by the way. It's not like your peers will be like, or your followers, oh my God, they're still talking about Google My Business. Well, it goes by really quickly, in the same way that this week we're talking about the content formula at Social School, and it's gone in a heartbeat. But it does give us something to have drafted up on Friday, written a blog post about Friday afternoon, gotten ready for this workshop Wednesday, created some social content around, ideally the week or the month before, and it's ready to roll out. So kind of like Dale had said, we're mapping things out in advance. All we're trying to do here, though, is make it a bit more strategic. So when we're combining all these things, we start to be able to create this content bank that I mentioned. And I'm gonna fast forward here and show you what it looks like. And then we're gonna come back and do some topic generation based on some leading questions I'm gonna throw your way that might just give you 18 topic ideas. So the 13 by 4 is our formula for 12 months of seamless content creation. And we actually have a tool for it. It's called the Blog Planner. It's $19 in the Academy. It's going live this week. I just have to film the video that shows people how to use it. But it's kind of fun. You can create this in your own spreadsheet or in your own Trello board, but ours has a lot of prompts and kind of additional things that help you get it live. So if this was the blog planner, but this could be anything. This could be your just weekly topic planner. You've got your pillar 1, pillar 2, pillar 3, and pillar 4. And then you're simply going to create 13 cards, or let's even do 6 months worth. Let's create 6 cards under each one. And then you can start to pull them into, what I like to do is create a column that's got dates on it, so that I know what my topics of the week are going to be after I've pulled the best ones out of my brainstorm list or my content bank. And then further from there, and of course, if we want to use the labels like we've got on the right, I can make sure that every card has the right pillar label on it. And then of course, some kind of category too that makes it, oh yeah, that's a how-to in my, education pillar. And then what happens is with Trello, at least, we can add dates to it and then click calendar view. And now you've got your content calendar in a digital format. Really easy for sharing and brilliant for just moving your cards around. That's why I like Trello so much. It's a very affordable content planning tool and digital sticky note. Avenue magazine, if many of you are familiar, they've been using Trello as literally their entire magazine planner for years. It's wonderful because you can share cards and tag people and move them through different columns and use it like a Kanban board if you're familiar with that methodology of sort of like planning phase, underway, complete, just move things along. So that's the idea. Does anyone have any questions on that so far? You guys still with me? Okay, so let's go back to some leading questions, you guys. The idea here is that we're trying to come up with those 13 weeks of topics, or sorry, 13 topics for each of those 4 pillars in order to have 52 weeks. Wouldn't that be nice? And, you know, a lot of us will need to back up a little bit and create an annual calendar. This can be done in Trello really nicely too. I like to do this with my months and point out the milestones or major events and happenings in each month. As Dale had said, you know, Christmas, but we've got back to school or Mother's Day, spring cleaning. Like, what matters? What's your editorial calendar of yourself, your own company? What matters to you and your revenue targets or your sales and marketing goals? And then what matters to your audience? You know, are they really deep into vacation season or cruise season because you're a swimwear company? Well, if that's the case, if we know cruise season is in the fall, we absolutely are planning that content and those campaigns out 6 to 12 weeks in advance. And never are campaigns successful and multi-platformed when they are just thought of the week before. And what happens is we start to say, oh man, it's International Women's Day, I better throw up a post, and it looks really hollow. So if you're going to do it well. You know, don't be afraid to throw up a post if that's as deep as you want to go on something, something that is warranted. But if you can think backwards a little bit and back out 6 to 8 weeks, and you're thinking of the anniversary of the Calgary flood because that matters to your business, or, you know, Black Lives Matter, 1 year since June, where we had a lot of events for that. Can you start to brainstorm for that now so that you can create a meaningful week of content around that theme? And this is where companies shine, because they get out of that day-to-day, like post, and they have these jump off campaigns quarterly or, you know, every 6 months, where it really shows that they've actually put some thought into it and they've, you know, gone above and beyond their usual. So a couple of ideas here for you to come up with some topics. 3 questions I'm asked about the most often as it relates to my work. Oh, amazing. I could talk about X, Y, Z. And it just so happens that one of those questions falls into each of my main pillars. 3 misconceptions about my company or my industry that I'd love to clear up. When people work with me or us, they are most delighted to learn what. And great, start to highlight your differentiation here, or your, you know, your unique offering. 3 things I could talk about for days without ever getting bored. I love that one. 3 little known facts about me or my company or my industry. 3 things I or we are absolutely the best at in our field. And what can happen here as well is hopefully some of these will really stand out as important, and they are known as the things people need to know about us, AKA your key messages. We assume that people know what we do, who we are, what we're good at, and I'm telling you, they don't. They don't know, they don't remember, or they just don't care. So if you're going to shine, you need to unearth those types of baseline understandings and, you know, service offering overviews on a regular basis. It's how you often see people on Instagram these days, I've noticed, reintroducing themselves. Like, it's smart, but basically saying, hi, you know, for my new followers, or a few things about me. I often talk about how we, you know, wish that more company leaders would pull back the curtains a little bit and show us their true personality, so we could actually start to see the people behind the company and the values that they hold versus just what they sell. Because I actually don't care anymore. I want to shop from the people that I most relate to and that I feel like I know and I trust in this wild world we're living in. So show us the interesting sides of you, show us your personality. And this is where we can get really fun. That entertainment bucket, oh my God. Again, show us riding your bike, show us your favorite playlist. Tell us what your, you know, best barbecue skills entail, but not just the same. And it might surprise people, but why not? even on LinkedIn, we're seeing people really loosen up a lot. It's not just, cat memes on there by any means. It's still very professional content, but the stuff that's getting a ton of views are more candid, unbuttoned, conversational stuff that isn't quite TikTok worthy, but it's Facebook, Instagram worthy. Does anyone have any questions of anything here? Any ideas on some of those leading questions that maybe could be jump off points for you, or they could start to fill your content bank of 13 post ideas? Is anyone finding this helpful? Are you guys there?
Yeah, I'm the only one talking. I'm waiting for everybody else.
Thanks, Dale.
It does. This is this structures some of our brainstorming and helps out a lot. So we did. I mentioned somewhere before that we kind of stole this idea of send us a picture of your old tractor kind of thing. So we set up send us a picture of you and your horse kind of thing driving, and it was phenomenal. Like the responses were, I think we had like 40 some pictures within an hour kind of thing. Like, and
amazing.
And it's so nice. So now we take that and we send them a fancy pair of gloves, and we put their picture up on our website for a month, and then we look for the next one and the next one. But it was just nice to, instead of our pictures all the time, that we were getting our customers putting that in there. So
that's really cool. One thing that I've heard companies say over and over is that when they come up with a campaign like that, like I would call that a campaign, it's a unique post, but it's something that has some legs, as they say. You could run with that and create additional pieces of content from there. You could repeat it again next year, or, have it live on multiple platforms, which is campaignish. So, and it's generating goodwill, or it's generating awareness about who you are because it starts to go viral, or whatever it is. Those are all, the golden facets of a campaign. But I think what resonates with me is when companies often say, we didn't give it enough time. We didn't actually see that through because we got scared, or, we thought people were getting sick of it, or they got bored, or whatever. A company in Saskatoon we worked with a few years ago talked about how they came up with this idea. Actually, it was a fellow who was a panelist at one of our conferences, and then we worked together after. But he said to the crowd, my two favorite campaigns, one was Taco Tuesday, and it was something to do with coming into the brewery and having your tacos, and there was some really unique aspects to it. But he's like, the better one that I got scared of because it didn't get as much uptake initially was called Where'd Your Growler Go? And so he's like, we did this thing where we wanted people, because they had the ability, you could pick up your growler when growlers were this brand new hot thing, of draft beer, and put it on your bike, or in your backpack, or in the back of your truck, or like people just had these great stories of where these growlers ended up. And sometimes they made it back empty, and sometimes, the company never saw them again. But for whatever reason, he said there wasn't a lot of initial uptake. And so they kind of let it die. And then in the weeks following and the months following, they had so many people ask them about it. And so I think we have to decide if we're going to do something significant, or if we see that something's really resonating, double down on it if you can, and if it's the right decision. But don't be afraid to, run with something. That goes back to the idea of like really leveraging one blog post and making sure it gets seen versus creating a new blog every other day when nobody reads any of them. Let one blog post go further, add to it consistently, make it really SEO optimized, and let it work for the rest of your business. But I think sometimes we're all just in the business of churning out content that's quantity, not quality.
So I have a question, Kelly.
Sure, Vandy.
How often should we be blogging, or at least posting a blog?
Awesome question. Next week, when we look at the keystone content, which is the next layer of this, we're going to identify our frequency. So the platforms that you want to be on and how often you want to be posting to them. We've talked today about pillars, categories, and post topics. And next week we have to say, okay, well, where do I want to post these, and what is my realistic frequency for each? On the whole, I would say if you can blog once a week, that's awesome. And I'm going to show you the framework that makes that easy, because it becomes that one piece of pillar content that you dictate to yourself, that you either batch produce a month in advance, or you create a video and get the transcript out of once a week. That then it becomes really kind of not so hard to do one blog post per week or one video per week. But it's up to you. Some people prefer to do once a month and they make it much more long and lengthy. I just think that what we discovered even a couple weeks ago, actually in our Friday coffee, everybody talking about how they prefer a video blog. They want to take in content that's video form, not long and lengthy read. So
That's the only thing about blogs. You wonder if people read them if they're too long,
Totally. I mean, ask yourself that question, and then ask your audience. Are you reading, or what are you taking in that's longer form, and where do you dive into an article that's 5 minutes long or 15 minutes long to read versus just want to quickly watch the video? That was where we also discussed, like, if you're going to make a video blog, putting some subtitles on that video, and then just having people able to really quickly watch it and move on. Are you blogging right now, Vandy?
No, sorry, I should just mute. That's my computer.
That's okay. You're not blogging just yet, though? No.
Oh yes, I've had many blogs on my website, and I have a lot of older blogs which I wonder if I could re-blog
Unearth.
or bring up again, and kind of on social media. I don't know because I represent local artists, so I do artist features for each artist. So that wouldn't be old news. It would just be news that I already posted before, but maybe some people haven't seen it.
Totally. I agree. And, just knowing the kind of artists that you're representing, when they have a bit of clout or, domain recognition and name recognition, if you can link to their site or offsite link to them, that's going to really do wonders for your own SEO. So the more authentic links we can place in our copy, which is generally only done through a blog, you don't really have links usually on the main pages of your website to other people. Maybe you would if it's an exhibition. Then that's a really smart tactic for search rankings.
Okay.
It's a great idea. And then get them to share that blog post too. They can repost your post. Amen. Now we have all sorts of linking in and out. Heather or Michelle, Julie, Kathy, anybody have any questions or thoughts? Michelle says, I am new to all of this. I need the visual structure. I'm definitely surprised at how much I know and the ideas I have, it's sinking in and makes sense. That's awesome. Thanks, Michelle. Yeah, it's really fun to say to someone, what could you talk about for days in your business? Oh, well, like if it was Vandy, representing local artists, what's changed for the art industry during COVID, her Toronto expansion. Like there's so many ideas. I think we just sometimes get, paralyzed by them or scared to actually publish them. But this is where the process comes in, and you have to make it your own. If you are someone who is paralyzed by perfection and you don't think you're a writer and you're not good at actually sitting down to pen things, find a way around it. I have to remind myself, I used to be a journalist who had to pump out 10 stories a day or I would have gotten fired, and they had to be filed by 5 o'clock. And some days it was the most painful thing in the world. It's like sitting there trying to finish your string beans at the dinner table like a kid. And I didn't have a choice and I got it done. So today I'm like, well, why is it so hard to do one a week or whatever? We can all do this. It's just a matter of how much of a priority you're going to make it. And if you start to see results, I promise you it becomes really fun and inspiring to keep going. But again, there's other ways around those roadblocks that you've created for yourself, or those habits of yours. You can easily dictate something into your phone and it will spit it out for you as written content that you just need a quick edit on, or that you're going to send to an assistant or your brother who's good at actually publishing it. You don't have to look at it and get, embarrassed by it or whatever. There's video blogging instead of written blogging, or maybe it's not a blog for you, but it's going to be more social content. That's fine. We're going to identify what your keystone content is next week that is going to serve all these kind of smaller pieces of the pie. So we'll look at that and establish possibly some kind of weekly or monthly process for making it happen. Would be awesome if you can. If I can help you do that, man, there's nothing that would make me happier. And then what is it that is the secret to those kind of bright, concise, compelling pieces of Keystone content? Ones that we can't wait to read. They are mind mapped in advance. They don't have 17 tangents, and they really hit home a lesson or a transformation for someone. It's worth my time. I want to read it. I want to watch it. I want to get to the end of it, just like a great article. We all know what it feels like when you've gotten something out of something versus, you know, an e-newsletter, a blog post, or an article that wasted your time. And then how do we turn this into a kind of a content calendar? So we'll look at that in the weeks ahead. But for now, I really encourage you to try and come up with 13 topics times 4 pillars if you can, or even half that. And it'll start to really spill into this cool content plan that's got some strategy behind it, I promise you. Does anyone have any final questions? Or if you need any further assistance with what pillars are, for example, or how to make yours, by all means, drop it into the social club chat, and we can all sort of share ideas on that and hopefully get that foundational piece built for you. Kathy, trying to think of these concepts in a downsized realm, like company as population of 1. Any suggestions for the very, very small? Absolutely. I would come up with 2 platforms. Start there. If you had a blog and a Facebook page that was well published and you're driving traffic to over the next 6 months, amazing. You can build from there. Then you can start to, you know, cross post to LinkedIn and do really well on Instagram. But for now, think of 2 places that you want to show up well, and hopefully they're where your people are. And then from there, Kathy, I would say if you can come up with 6 months of topic ideas, ideally once a week, but even if you had one every 2 weeks, that's great. Using those leading questions that start to kind of, and you don't have to answer all of them, but are there any that really stood out for you that you can speak to depending on your industry and your company? What do people need to know about your company as it is today? If it's new, you're still in that awareness building phase. Well, then you probably want to weave in a lot of key messages. This is who we are. This is what we do. This is why we do it. If you're more established, you're answering those frequently asked questions that you get, or you're answering and writing about the things that are opportunities for you, products you're moving into, or services that you know people want now. And just keep it as simple as possible. Make your content map just like 2 to 3 pillars, and, you know, ideally 6 topics within each one, and then date them. Start to create a calendar for them so that the first week of May is going to be about this, and the second week of May is going to be about that. And then, you know, if you want to think about them in terms of categories, you can, because that's a did you know, or that's going to be a review or a testimonial post, but it doesn't have to be. As soon as it starts to feel overwhelming, back it up and take away a layer. Does that help, Kathy? Anybody else have any thoughts? Okay, awesome. Anyone feel like they get stuck with content? Am I the only one who has a hard time staying consistent? Or possibly you're outsourcing or thinking of outsourcing. That's awesome too. Sounds like Dale's outsourcing.
Is it a good idea to, sorry to interrupt. Is it a good idea to advertise when you have made a sale and someone's really happy? Like, or should you do that very often or not too often?
I think it depends. Like, I imagine that if you're talking about selling a piece of art,
Yeah.
yeah, like I think, Andy, you can, you know, push that in a way that's celebrating the artist and happy for the buyer. So go right to the end result, the transformation that that buyer has, you know, experienced, as opposed to the revenue that you've generated. We all know the difference when someone's tooting their own horn about how well they're doing versus how well their clients are doing and how excited they are to help and support them. So I think it's a great idea to talk about those things. sale, like a sale that's been made, or a new home that's been furnished, or a new office that's been decorated with custom art, or whatever it is, when there's people involved and it's not self-serving. What those types of posts do is they generate trust, right? Like it's obvious that you are selling and that other people take notice of that, and artists want to be a part of your fold, and customers want to take a look at what you're selling, you know. Great. Okay, cool. Teresa says this was great. Takes my process and puts real structure to the process. No problem. It's going to get even more clear, I promise you, as we go. So I'll end it there, you guys. Thanks so much for joining today. And if you have any further questions, just pop them in Social Club anytime. And I can't wait to see you again next week as we build these content plans. Thanks, Michelle.
Okay.
Talk to you all
Thank
again
you.
soon. Thanks, Dale. Bye.
Thank you.
See you later, Mandy.